To not wander away. Be aware of yourself. We have to practice so we become accustomed to being concerned, becoming self-aware. Whenever you have free time, you have to meditate on an object so that the mind can have the meditation objects. Whatever meditation objects you're competent at knowing, do so. If the mind likes whatever object and doesn't give rise to defilements, choose that one. Like, I'm very competent at knowing the breath and the Buddha chanting, breathe in, breathe out, to become automatic. Whenever I have free time, when I don't have to work, that requires thinking. The mind will come with the Buddha and the breathing. Even nowadays, I'm still used to doing so. The weaknesses of lay people that I witnessed is that the lack of samadhi. The reason that they don't possess samadhi because they don't understand the principle of Dhamma that give rise to samadhi. Some people understand the principle of giving rise to the samadhi, but they practicing on and off. Practicing on and off wouldn't give any actual result because defilements will take over you. To meditate is not just about sitting meditation and breathing in, breathe out, no, and that's it. It isn't about walking or sitting meditation. That's such only formal meditation. The superficial practice, Dhamma practice, but the true essence of Dhamma practice is to be mindful. Meditate. While meditating without mindfulness, the mind will wander away and you get nothing out of it. Or sitting meditations in your mind, setting out, seeing different things, seeing, for example, ghosts or celestial beings. It become very enjoyable and have fun seeing these things, but it's actually less beneficial. So before I told you to practice Dhamma, to meditate and take it seriously, train your mind seriously, actually it's about training your mind. Before I told you to do that, I actually educate you the principle of Dhamma practice. This is not what I've come up with on my own. Lord Buddha, when he giving talks about Dhamma, the very first teaching is Dhammacakkappavana Sutra, which there are two mistakes that Dhamma practitioners shouldn't do. So he started from the things, the mistakes, not just making things right. The first one is when you're lacking. For example, the mind likes to wander away and hungry for different objects, especially sensual pleasures. The mind's striving, searching for objects to consume. For example, the forms that it likes, the taste that it likes, the feels that it likes, and try to get away from the forms, taste, sound, feel sensation that it doesn't like. So the mind keep on working all the time. That we lacking, the mind will go according to the things that it accustomed to doing. We're actually born in the sensual world, but it's actually wholesome, but it is in the sensual world. The mind still keep traveling and searching for sensual pleasures, like happiness and joy through six senses. whenever they're thinking of um, the essential pleasures like forms, sound, taste, sensation through the six sense doors, eyes, ears, yes, eye, ears, tongue, body sensation, or the things that they can perceive through minds, like mental objects. And we think of the essential pleasures like forms, taste, felt, the sense, sensation. These are sensual Dhamma, which can be perceived through the mind, not through the body or eyes or ears or tongue. So the mind is searching for happiness through sensual pleasures, consuming, consumption of these sensual pleasures, called sensual Dhamma. The mind wouldn't be able to become self-aware. It's keep on being and joyful. Whenever it meets with the um, pleasure, it will like it. It will become satisfied and likes that object. Without its presence, then you want it to come back. But if come back, you want it to stay as long as possible. Or the objects that you didn't like, you want it to go away, to fade away, not to come at all. So, but if we keep on indulging these sensual pleasures, there will be wanting it to go, wanting to come, wanting to last long, wanting not to fading away. And they'll give rise to intention according to according to those cravings. We crave for its existent, craving for the non-existent, want it to stay as long as possible. If you want to fade away, you want to destroy their intention to destroy. Whenever the intention happens, then the mind will work because the intention itself is actually the karma. Whenever intention arises, then the mind will take actions. The actions of the mind is actually called realms. It's actually the karma pop in Bali. There are two types of realms. When we have upatipop in Bali, when we born as human, but the karma pop keep on changing within our hearts. These realms are changing all the time within our hearts. For example, we're craving for existent, non-existent, wanting things to stay as long as possible. We have the intentions to maintain and creating these realms. As soon as your mind was pushed to keep on working through the power of craving or wanting, the mind will no longer have freedom. There will be suffering arises within your heart. So the very first thing that Lord Buddha taught us is do not just dwell on sensual pleasure. If you still dwell on sensual pleasures, then you lack of the Dhamma practice. You don't think that Dhamma practice is fun at all. You have to suppress, you have to force your mind. But if you practice enough, then you don't have to force it anymore. You will practice with happiness. The other things that Lord Buddha taught us not to consume or conduct is to force or controlling our body and mind. This is called, which is the another extreme. Whenever, as soon as we think of the Dhamma practice, we make ourselves troublesome. You try to control your body and mind. You think that the more you control it, the better it will become. You try to force and suppress your mind and control your body. You think that it's going to be good. Masters, they are very smart. Like there are, for example, the self-modification is different from one to another. Some people, when while sitting meditation and walking meditation all day and night, all night, and the master said that that's good, but the other person do exactly the same thing, but but the master told that person that that's a self modification. So the determinant factors that makes the Dhamma practice right or wrong is depends on whether you're doing it with mindfulness or not. If you have the mindfulness, breathing out and be mindful, breathing in and be mindful, have the mindfulness of four different postures and moving and staying still. Whether you're sitting meditations with mindfulness, seeing the body breathing in and breathing out, even 12 hours, you're still in middle path. But for the other persons, they don't have the mindfulness. Even 15 minutes of sitting meditations, you're already controlling your body and mind. That's the self-modification. So self-modification doesn't depend on the number of hours or the amount of time you're practicing. It actually depends on your mind. For some people, when they eat food, having food, um, that's appropriate for that person. But for the other person, they have to have sleep deprived and eat no food and make their mind have mindfulness, samadhi, and wisdom, and can cultivate wisdom very easily. That's their middle path. So when we see a lot of masters that they have sleep deprived and don't eat any food, and we want to imitate them, but our body might not be suitable for those practices and makes our torturing, that won't be the middle path for you. That's the self-modification. I used to come to pay respect to one of the masters. He's actually one of the main pillars of the Dhamma practice nowadays, which is Luangpu Pramote. I can call his name because a lot of people know him already, and I didn't want to speak towards him. He said himself that he can do no sleep and no food, no fun. Uh, he could he could have no food, but then he couldn't. He has to sleep. But for Master Luangpu Fan, he can have sleep deprived and don't sleep at all. He can, but for Luangpu Tui, he can have no food for many days, and their minds will be very vigorizing and very energetic. But for Luangpu Fan, he didn't want, he cannot, he have to eat some food in order to practice. So it up to individual whether it's too tight or too slack. So it up to yourself. We don't compare ourselves to others. You have to uh, observe yourself which activities make your wholesomeness prosperous and unwholesomeness decreases. That activity would be suitable for you. So you have to be mindful of yourself. Whatever activities that makes your wholesomeness arises and unwholesomeness falls away, and wholesomeness that already there prospering, that's your middle path for yourself. So you have to observe yourself. Do not compare with others, but do not take side for yourself, because you might be biased because you love yourself. But you have to be honest with yourself. Meditate on the objects and that makes your mindfulness happens more frequent. Then unwholesomeness will be discarded, and unwholesomeness will arise whenever you have the mindfulness. the wholesomeness that arise will, that never arise will arise, and wholesomeness are already there will prosper. So the important things of Dhamma practice is not just about saying what postures you are in, or how many hours or amount of time that you practice Dhamma. It's not that. So the most important thing of Dhamma practice is whenever you practice, whether you have the mindfulness or not. If you're sitting meditations and you become joyful and dreaming about things, seeing different things, and you said that you're having visions. Most of the time, it's actually not the visions. It's actually called Subhan Nimit, which is dreaming. In other words, you think that you're different person in different lives according to requirements. You can't believe on them in them. When I've practiced and I developed the vision, I don't believe in them right away. Do not just believe in them right away. Whenever you see things, and you shouldn't believe in them right away, otherwise you become superstitious. But if you see things, and for example, when the mind delivered some Dhamma and teach yourself Dhamma, and you think that it's very good, the Dhamma, the mind is the Buddha, and Buddha already expounded Dhamma, but you have to inspect, examine whether the Dhamma that it taught you is according to the Dhamma that Lord Buddha taught or not. For example, you think that the mind is permanent, but actually, which is quite different from Lord Buddha taught. Or sometimes you could see the light, and the mind is in the light, whatever you like to see. It's like you have the spotlight, and whenever your spotlight make contact with, you can see different things like slash beams and sometimes numbers and lottery. But that's not, there's no use for transcending the suffering. So that's one of my main principles. Whatever that doesn't help me transcend the suffering, I just know that. Sometimes you practice and you have different visions, and like the master Lord Buddha comes to teach you, but you have to go see whether that's reasonable or not. Because sometimes the Mara can come and imitate Lord Buddha image and try to teach you. So through reasoning and mindfulness, whenever you do meditation objects and you have the right mindfulness, these visions wouldn't be able to come. These visions that try to fool you coming from the defilements within yourself or the outside Mara as well. Or the Mara within ourselves, which is defilements, will be able to fool you. So through the mindfulness and meditating on objects, be mindful with yourself. Whenever the mind is restless, know so. Converse, know so. Not converse, know so. Keep on knowing so. Do not do with the greed mind. Almost everyone, almost all Dhamma practitioners, practicing Dhamma with the greed. Whenever they do sitting meditations, they think of how to make the mind calm, and you try to make the mind calm. Try to find a way to make the mind calm. It's going to be a lot difficult because the mind developed the craving. It was pushed forward. You keep on thinking how to make the mind calm, how to make the mind happy. The mind was tortured to work. It's not going to work. It won't be calm. So do not do with the greed. Whatever object meditation that you do, you have to have this conceptual thinking that you do to worship Lord Buddha, not for yourself. We practice Dhamma in order to worship Lord Buddha as a Buddha offering. We don't expect any result. We just think that we would like to practice Dhamma to offer some offering to Lord Buddha without the greed while meditating object. Your mind will be calm in no time. But if you do with the greed, the mind will be craving, hungry, and searching for the objects outside or object inside, forcing, controlling your mind. and the mind will become exhausted. Meditate on objects and you become exhausted already. But if you do quite well, then you won't be exhausted. Because when you enter and exit out of the Dhamma, it will be refreshing and energizing and humid and joy and happy and blissful. Actually, this one of the obstacle as well, because sometimes you can stuck on these things. Through the wisdom and mindfulness, they can step forward. So at the beginning, you have to walk the middle path. Do not like do not becoming slack or controlling yourself to be better, to be good. Therefore, not to make the mind wander away for long period of time, you should meditate on objects so the mind become accustomed to these objects. Whenever the mind wander off through six and doors, it will become shorter and shorter. And whenever you do meditation objects, you have to have this conception mind not for the kindness or goodness. We only for to offer some goodness to Lord Buddha, not for yourself. We want to offer paying the gratitude towards the Lord Buddha. If you start with no greed, then you practice in a relaxing way by be mindful of the body and mind, meditate on your object with with no greed to become good or better. And once the mind when you meditate on objects with the neutral mind, then the mind will become very easily. But if you do with the greed, then it will become too tight. It becomes self-modification. That I told you is actually the direct experience for myself. I didn't copy anyone, these stories and this stuff. In order to summarize from the gist of the Dhamma practice takes time, takes patience. Since I was 7 years old, I keep on practicing breathing good without dough, on and on. That with that time I was a very child. I was a child. Master told me to do so. I did. I keep on doing, and I like to do so till 10 years old. And one day, the fire next to my house, I was startled. I ran towards my dad to tell my dad. The first step, I become startled. Second step, very startled. And the third one, the mind spring up as the knower, because the mindfulness can see the startledness. The mind become the knower, blissful one. Once the mind become joyful and knowing, I didn't know the value of it. No master told me what it is. I don't know how to make use of it. The mind will become the knower like that also. Like whenever I do a sitting meditation, the mind become knower, and I couldn't move on. I couldn't know how to do cultivating the wisdom. That the mind enter this state to become the knower, awaken, knowing and great this one, because I have no greed. Master told me to practice Dhamma, and I keep on doing so without expecting anything. I keep on practicing without greed. So there's no forcing or controlling the mind. The mind, I'll just keep on practicing normally. The mind converts very easily. If your mind is greedy, then you become exhausted. You try to search a way to make it calm and it right. It's just only taking action. If you make the mind doing work, then the mind couldn't take rest to it. So you don't have to do anything. Just be with your object meditation with the mindfulness. Without mindfulness, all these visions will fool you, and you will become deluded. So you have to practicing with the mindfulness in order to keep offering to Lord Buddha. In no time, you'll be calm. The mind will be calm. But you have to keep on practicing till you become competent and you become accustomed to practicing. If you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 hour, you practicing. Whenever you have free time, do practice. Do not just wait until at the end of the day before going to bed to practice Dhamma. it's not going to work because your mind become restless all day long, and at the end of the day you try to meditate on an object, you'll be sitting and sleeping at the same time because your mind will be exhausted. So whenever you have free time during the day, whenever you have free time, try to bring your mind towards uh, the consistent object. Whether it's calm or not, that's okay. In no time, it will be calm. The mind will take some rest. You can replenish some energy from time to time. At the end of the day, at night, if you want to do like long hours of walking, sitting meditation, you wouldn't be asleep because the mind isn't that exhausted. But if during the day you you haven't practiced at all, at night you'll be asleep very easily. So what I've taught you is my direct experience. So it's quite different from other people who study and learn. Other people, other places or school practices. Back then, like I've been visiting. Most of the people will do formal meditation, and formal meditation is limited in the body, doing different postures. But for the mind, people need to try and errors for themselves, and almost everyone error is not very correct. I see these weaknesses, like people walking many hours and sitting to from dusk till dawn, but they never get better because they only do just only superficially. They don't have the right mind. The right mind is when the mind doesn't go to two extremes. So what I told my disciple is that not to wander away and not to overguessing. Once wandering away knows so, one overguessing knows so. If you keep on practicing this by knowing these two extremes, the mind will go into the middle path. The Dhamma practice will be easy, and the right samadhi will arise. Without these principles, while doing formal meditation, almost everyone has the wrong samadhi. There will be no mindfulness. You'll be either slacking or too tight. For example, while slacking, you keep on wondering, thinking of other things and seeing different visions. So if you're too tight, you become pain here and there, neck pain, back pain, um, leg pain, because it's too tight. You're controlling your body too much. Then they say that you have to sit straight and have the mindfulness. Sit straight is quite different from person to another person. It's not like the soldier straight like that, but your back isn't designed to be like that. Some people have a hump or slouching. Um, it's different from each individual, so there's no exact right postures. Some people walk in different patterns. If you walk like that, you like do some traditional dancing or something. So the middle path of each individual is different. So you have to observe yourself. If it's not too tight and not too slack, then that's the middle path. In the very first teaching of Lord Buddha, he started from the thing is that the Dhamma practitioners, when we for the rest of us, when we want to take action to practice Dhamma, do not let the mind go to two extremes. The first one is too slack, and the second, for example, like satisfy your desires all the time, like become joyful and delude in the world, and you don't want to practice Dhamma. When you want to take action, you become controlling yourself, making your body and mind in trouble. Like if you're hungry, you don't want to eat, you won't, you becoming hot and don't take shower. But some people do it and it's better for them. It's that good for them. But for the some of us is not comfortable with us, then that's not your middle path. So in the beginning, you're in the middle path, and for the mind, when you're not in, not wandering away and not overguessing. So at the beginning of my teaching, it's about like you have to meditate with the mind that is not wandering away and not overcasting. Some people laughed at me at the beginning. Why not teaching about breathing good without go like that? Why teaching like that? Because when people breathe in good without go, their mind is very overcasting and it's give no results. You have to use your normal mind, natural normal mind, to meditate on objects. If you use the controlling mind to meditate on objects, then it will make no use. Actually, you gain something which is the patience. You gain the patience and Dhamma. You try to suppress your mind. These are some of the virtues that you can develop through this process. But it won't. It will be far. It's not the path to the liberation. In fact, it's very difficult to prove whether this one is your middle path. Each person takes side. They think that I can sleep for 15 hours a day. That's appropriate for them. That's their middle path. They don't want to do any jobs and keeping rolling around the bed. And that's when you accumulated the delusions. You are accumulating your delusions to become animals in the future. So you don't take side. You do whatever that makes the wholesomeness go away and make wholesomeness prosper. The wholesomeness that already prosper, was already there to prosper. That's the appropriate for you. That would be appropriate for you. It's not difficult. Whether you're patient or not, and try to observe yourself as much as possible. Whatever is good for you, then do that, and be patient as well. There are there are two weaknesses for lay people. The first one, they don't have samadhi. The second one is they're not being consistent with that practice. I actually taught you the principle of Dhamma practice to develop samadhi. For example, meditate on an object that makes you happy, to make the mind calm without focusing or overfocusing or wandering away. You meditate with the natural normal mind. And if you want to make the mind stable, to cultivate wisdom, instead of concentrating on the object, instead be knowing your mind. So this just like the flip of the coin. If you want to make your mind calm, concentrate on the objects that make you happy and comfortable. But if you want to make your mind stable, you meditate on the same objects, but instead of concentrating on the object, aim for the mind. Try to be aware of the mind. For example, like I breathe in good, breathe out though, because I want to make the mind calm. So stay with the breath, breathe in good, breathe out though, and the mind will be eventually calm. If you want to make the mind stable, we don't focus on the objects. The objects are only secondary. If you want to make the mind calm, the objects will be primary. But if you want to make the mind stable, the mind is the primary object. Whenever there's mind, there will be object. Whenever there are objects, there will be mind. If you want to make the mind calm, let the mind stay with the objects that makes you happier consistently. But if you want to make the mind stable, observe the mind. Whenever the mind runs towards the objects also, you might run towards different objects and different places also as well. Try to observe your mind. When the mind moves towards the object and also the mind moves towards different places and also the mind will become stable automatically. When the mind becomes stable, being consistent with your practice. This is why I told you to walk in meditation for as much as possible. If you cannot walk, then sitting. And try to be aware of your mind. When the mind focusing on the objects and also drifting away also as well, so it gains some strength of the mind. It will become stable and become dominant. When your mind gains some strength, then you'll realize that the five aggregates are separated. We don't separate them ourselves. Otherwise, we'll become exhausted. And at first, I don't understand this principle. The first time that Luangpu Dun taught me, I thought that I have to separate the mind and the objects from each other. It's very exhausting to separate them, but all of a sudden they collide back together again. So I tried to make a lot of attempts in order to separate these objects in mind. But I realized that once the mind becomes observed, the mind is separated. It's actually the observer, the, the, the observer that I've been doing this since I was young. But do not stare at the knower mind. Otherwise, it will be wrong. Once the knower mind is there, whenever the mindfulness recognized, for example, the body, you realize that the body and the mind is two different things. The stable mind is the stable observer. The mindfulness to be aware of the sound, for example, or the feelings. You'll realize that these forms, sensation, these are objects are actually to be known. Perception to be known. If your mind is knower, you realize that these aggregates are separated. These five aggregates separated. And the form can be categorized into different things. 28 to be exact. The true form is actually limited to 18. You don't have to study a lot. Actually, the colors that the eye sees are the one-off forms. The sound that ears hear, another form. The smell, another form. The taste, another form. The sensation like cold, hot, that make contact with the body is another form, which is actually fire element. The hardness, softness, the vibrations, these are elements. These elements that make contact with the body, the fire, the air, the earth. But for the water, for the, you don't have to learn like this. This is when you're learning through the text. But in aspects of Dhamma practice, we just learn that, for example, the body breathe in, breathe out, walking, lying down, sleeping, you'll be staying still, moving, observe them. You realize that you see that the body and the mind the body is not the mind is not the body, and not outside. It will be a lot easier if you learn like sutra, learn from the sutra. Most of the noble ones will learn from sutra, not the abhidharma. But when you observing the phenomena, you actually learning the abhidharma. But when you try to memorize a lot of things in the text and you keep thinking, it's already involved with thinking, you won't be able to practice. So the first thing you have to make the mind stable. Anyone can memorize how to make the mind stable? If you don't recognize, if you don't remember it, raise your hand. The way that we can make the mind stable is that the mind is one thing, the object is another thing. The object is, for example, the breath or the body breathing. The mind is the one knows the body breathing. If you want to make the mind calm, then we focus on the breath. Then the mind will become calm without wavering to other things. But if you want to make the mind stable, you focus on the mind. Whenever the mind moves towards the object, also the mind moves to different places, and also as well, it makes the mind stable. If you become angry, also when the aversion arises, the mind also, and the mind moves towards the aversion and follow the aversion also as well. You realize that the aversion and the mind has two different things. Then you realize that aversion is one of the mental fabrication, which is not the mind. Whenever the aversion arises or happy and happiness arises, you'll see that happiness and happiness are not the mind. Everything that the mind is not the mind. Till there will be only single mind left. But that single mind is not. It actually there are mental factors that comprising together with the mind as well. When the mind becomes stable and dominant, you realize that the normal mind is actually under the three characteristics. Sometimes it's normal mind, sometimes it's thinking mind. If you have normal mind and you try to preserve the normal mind all the time, then that's wrong. That's smart practice. But if you could see that sometimes the mind become knower, become thinker, knower and overcasser, knower and see the object seer, knower and sound listener, you'll realize that ultimately the mind is actually the knower mind is actually not ourselves. It's actually under the three characteristics like other things. So what I told you that I'd like you to start with 5 precepts. This is a must. Anyone that taught you not to preserve the 5 precepts, that's wrong. That's in other religions, but for Buddhists, you have to maintain the 5 precepts. The second one is you have to do form meditations. Meditate on any objects or meditation that you're competent in knowing. Try to choose the objects that make you become relaxing and knowing it. If you become stressful, then that's not appropriate for you. Like myself, I when I serve the body, there's only one piece of bones that whenever I observe it, then it's no good. It's painful. Whenever I observe the skeleton, I would ignore one part of these bones because it made me painful. So instead, I observe other parts of the body. So to try to observe which one is appropriate for you. You observe, you observe meditating, and it makes you relaxing. Then ultimately, it will give you happiness and calmness in no time. So choose the meditation object wisely that makes you happy and relaxing, not stressful. Whenever you want to be calm, then stay with the objects. But if you want to upgrade your samadhi to become stable, observe your mind, not overcasting your mind. When I see knowing your mind, most of the time you're overcasting on the mind. Otherwise, if you're doing that, the mind will become Vinyan Jayatana in Bali, which is one of the formless meditations. There will be one knower mind and another knower mind will replace the old one. The second knower mind will be the objects and give rise to another knower mind. And it will become um, complex like this, complicated like this. Actually, the knower mind or consciousness will be unlimited, will be infinity, which is will be enter the second formless jhana, which is quite difficult to solve this problem. Whenever the mind wants to meditate, then it will enter this realm right away. So do not stare at the knower mind. Just know it. Do not stare at it. Just know the existence of it. And you realize that it just happened, arising and falling away. That's enough. It sounds difficult. First of all, maintain the 5 precepts. Is it difficult? It's actually difficult. Otherwise, you won't break it. The most difficult 5 precepts is the fourth one. Anyone still slapping on killing mosquitoes? Raise your hand. Oh, that's amazing. Really? No. So you have to maintain the 5 precepts and you have to maintain a do more formal meditations whenever you are restless. Incline your mind towards calmness, and whenever your mind is calm, upgrade your mind to knowing the mind that drifting away here and there. Once your mind, when you have still have some free time left, then you cultivate wisdom. Whenever the mind knows, try to recognize it as 3 characteristics. The first one is maintain the 5 precepts. The second one is do form meditations, and the rest of the time goes to the practicing mindfulness in daily life. You will be able to do it if you can observe the mind. Whenever the eye see form, ear hear sound, the tongue tastes, the nose smells, the body feels, and the mind thinks, we don't forbid it to happen. Whenever the eye see forms and there are changes within your mind, for example, happiness and unwholesomeness arises also. Whenever your ear hears sounds and changes within your mind, if you're happy and happy and happy, wholesome and wholesome, also as well. When the nose, when the nose smells, when the tongue tastes, whenever wholesome and wholesomeness and happiness arises, and also whenever body feels coldness, vibration, hotness, when the happiness and happiness, wholesome and unwholesomeness within your mind, and also when your mind thinks of a story and it makes you happy and happy, and also whenever you think of any kind of story, when it's happened, once the happiness arising, wholesome and unwholesome arising, and also this is the cultivating mindfulness in daily life. We let all the six sense doors works naturally, and it will start from one channel to another. Whatever the channel works, whatever the changes happen within your heart also, that's the heart of the practice, which is the mind. Because under wholesomeness, fruits and liberations arises in your heart. Be mindful of these heart. These. So these three things. The first one is maintain the five precepts, and second, do formal meditation. And third one is whenever you're restless, you stay with the objects that make you happy continuously, and whenever you drift away to different things, and be aware of them. The mind will become stable. Whenever the mindfulness recognize anything, to observe the characteristics. When you're competent at knowing this, then you can practice in daily life. Let the six sense door works. Whenever happiness, wholesomeness and wholesomeness rises, also know within your heart only. Have you ever heard of Pramote Bali? You can search online. The noble one, which is not only the novice, he taught Bodhila, which is can memorize all the Tipitaka, the Arahant, the noble one, the noble novice said that close the other sandals and be mindful of the mind. When I said close it other sensor, it doesn't mean like actually closing it, but actually you have to guarding them. And once the Papotila practice like this, you become noble one in no time. The first maintain the five precepts, do formal meditation, and cultivate mindfulness in daily life. If you can do this, then the fruit won't be far away. You can attain the fruit in this life. You don't have to wait for other lives. If you can't do this in this life and you expect the fruit in the next life, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So that should be all for today. Number one, I can see the suffering arises from thoughts. I can see thoughts clearly, and suffering arises through thoughts very intensively. In formal meditation, the mind's like to overcast things, but it got better. I think this samatha practice is difficult to practice. In daily life, I can see thoughts, I can see the defilements. The mindfulness arises on its own, but not often. The mind likes, the mind was suppressed to do different things according to its craving. The boss said that you're doing correctly. It's starting getting better. We don't aim for goodness. To practice Dhamma is about learning oneself. Each person takes side that were good, but once we practice Dhamma, we realize that we're actually more evil than we realize. At first, you're drifting away for a long period of time, but now become shorter and shorter. Our defilement used to be intensive, but then it become lighter and lighter. We don't aim for the light defilements. We just know them. with the natural, normal, neutral mind. We don't like or dislike one particular thing. When you practice is good. Number two, number one is good. That you said that you cannot do meditation because you see that your meditation is a lot strengthened, stronger. Actually, samadhi is not about the calmness. Samadhi is about when you become self-awareness, you'll be aware of yourself. Samadhi, just your samadhi just got better and better, a lot better. Number two, you told me to become self-aware more often, and I discovered that is the most important, the most difficult thing. Without the self-awareness, the mindfulness wouldn't be able to rise. The mind will be diluted in the defilements. Once practiced more and more, the mindfulness will become swift and stronger. Once the mind drifts away and the normal mind will come back very easily. When I could see the mind that drift away and also only lower mind and thinking the drifting away mind happen, nothing lasts. You keep on practicing and observing whatever defilements that keep hidden in your heart also. At first you seemingly cause things, but now you become more subtle at observing them, like conceitedness. You're so good, like this. Try to observe like this. Number two, you're good, and number one, you're good as well, but now you're making mistakes. You might setting out to see the object. Number two is you're good, but keep on practicing. Number two, you should do calmness samadhi more, otherwise it will become restless if continue cultivating wisdom all the time. Number three, like chanting and sitting meditation every day in daily life, become more happy. I do everything according to a good intention. I see the suffering within myself, and the suffering become less and less. The mind moves very. I could see the mind moves away very clearly, and the mind didn't want the suffering. I always bring up the suffering. I could see the weakness of myself. I've, I have considered that I think I'm good. Not sure whether I'm correct. Correct. If you could see the defilement, that's good. Good. You're practicing correctly. And now the mind is off the base. Could you see that? Number three, you're controlling yourself. Can you see that? I become tight. So you have to try to observe your behavior of the mind on and on, and you gain some improvement. Number four, you're still very restless, and at the beginning of the day, I'm thinking a lot of things. Whenever I become aware, and the mind can sense the body movements. In formal meditations, I used to sense a part of the body, for example, the rising and falling elements or the right hand. I can see the minds that drift away to see different parts of the body, and I come back to the upper base. I'm not, whether you're practicing correct. When I said that you, you should have the meditation objects any part of the body. Once you drift away from that point of interest, also you observe that point, also as well. Your samadhi will got better. Number five, I observe the five precepts. The mind like to become restless. I do more formal meditations through walking and dynamic meditation, and I keep on listening to your Dhamma teaching. Sometimes I could see the body is not a cell. Sometimes I could see that the mind is not a cell, and I become crying. In daily life, I try to become self-aware. I sometimes see laziness. I'm not sure whether I'm walking the right path. It's actually correct and good. you got the first prize among 8 people. If it's got better and become uh, there will be ups and there will be down. Now starting become down, it become tight. If you want to be ups all the time, then you're controlling yourself. What you practice is good.
เบอร์ 6
Number 6.
ส่วนใหญ่ทำสมาธิ
Most of the time when I do meditation and
เยอะ
observe the mind, it takes a lot of energy.
5
I think that my energy is not enough. I want to make the mind converge to become absorption level slowly.
เห็นว่าจิตใจ
When I chant in Buddha, I can see the minds that
ก็
reside in Buddha and Do are different things.
ก็ไม่ใช่ตัวเอง
You can see that the mind that resides in Buddha actually are different minds. It's like the
เหมือนเป็นจิตที่อยาก
image that keep on rolling. I can see a lot of phenomena. I'm not sure whether it's correct or not. The boss said that it's correct, it's true. You can use this kind of method as well. Keep on practicing. Number 7.
เบอร์ 7 เดินและนั่งในรูปแบบ
I do walking and sitting meditations for about 2 or 3 hours a day. I feel that it's broadened and no rubbish, less rubbish in my heart. The mind become more automatic. The mindfulness become more automatic, and the fibers are easy to preserve. Because I could observe the defilements more easily. I prioritize my Dhamma practice. Both body and mind are more stronger. Whenever life face problems, mind becomes normal again very sooner. I'm not sure whether is there any things that the mind stuck on. There's a lot of things actually. The weather like this is not very suitable for me. My voice is gone. There's a lot of doctors here. Can you repeat the question? Number 7.
เดินและนั่งในรูปแบบ
I walk in sim meditation for about 2 or 3 hours.
พบว่าปลอบโปร่ง
I think that it's become broadened, but there's still a lot of rubbish within my heart. My mindfulness become more automatic more often. I can observe the factors more easily. I can see directly the defilements, and I prioritize my Dhamma practice. And both of my body and mind are stronger. Whenever life face problems, the mind become natural, normal again, easily. Is there anything that the mind makes my mind stuck on any things? I already answered this question. There's a lot of things that the mind stuck upon, but it become more delicate and more subtle. Whenever you practice, do not develop craving. You practice in order to giving the offering to Lord Buddha, so you become more make progress. Your practice correct is keep more progressing. Number 8 is good as well.
เบอร์ 8 จิตภาวนาเอง
The mind practice Dhamma on its own from dusk to dawn. In daily life, I keep on witnessing some phenomena rising in the middle of my chest and disappear. I can see the rising falling away of the energy feel to energy feels through my mind. Once it's heavy, then it makes unwholesomeness. But if it's light, then it's give the good vibe. And I know this phenomena with the stable neutral mind without interference. But when your interference, we don't do it through making the mind to be still. You're fabricating the mind to be still. You see that now you're trying to create in the stillness, and at this point, you won't be able to feel pleased or displeased towards anything. Just make you have to use your natural, normal mind, and whatever likes or dislike happen, just know so. When your practice is actually good, but these are the things that you have to keep on observing, which is not trying to maintain the mind to be still. You so that you see that the no myself can arise and be falling away. The mind drifts away to thoughts, no so. The mind moves, no so. The body moves, no so. The mind drifts away to the world of thought, no so. Keep on knowing in a relaxing way. When you practice, you have a lot of progress. You have to keep on observing. Shouldn't maintain the mind to be still, except for the time that you make to make the mind calm. You can do that. But while cultivating wisdom, you shouldn't do that. That should be all for today. A lot of doctors stare at me right now. It's quite difficult. For being me, I couldn't cough. If there any phlegms, I'm not a robot actually.